Steve Kuclo, IFBB Pro Champion, 6th at Olympia in 2019, 3rd at the Arnold for multiple years, entrepreneur, father.
He's like, well, listen, if you converted all that protein you eat, like 400 grams of protein in a muscle a day, we'd all be walking around like silverback gorillas, and that's not the case. Do you need that much protein? Definitely not, because really the stemming is inflammation. Bodybuilding is very pro-inflammatory.
Yeah, for sure.
And a lot of the supplement brands, they try to get a little sexy with formulas and put a lot of unnecessary stuff in there, so it's not something that's going to move the needle that much. What's your blood pressure doing on a daily basis? Are you continually having to take more and more drugs to try to achieve a certain look? Do you feel like you're not getting in that same conditioning and just trying to do more and more and more because your body's just burning out? It's just too much. Anywhere from 600 to 1200 milligrams, you're really beating the crap out of your liver. You can probably go a little higher. It's a terrible disease, and it's not something that happens overnight. It happens over 20 or 30 years of really abuse to your body.
Before starting this podcast, I just wanted to say that ideating steroids for a full show is not widely accepted because it discounts the real work, which is the backbone of this sport, and unfortunately spreads that an unsafe chemical solution is all you need for results. Both of these are antithetical to society's understanding of the sport, and while there will always be some that claim that PEDs are all you need, I would like to deliver an honest message of what is required for achieving top performance, as well as the dangers associated with this route. I received this comment from a user named Nightscarens. But just as a rock climber, the athletes undergoing this path in the sport are willing to put their life on the line for their passion. Just the danger between the two sports is different. Luckily, we do have safety nets in the sport, such as organ imaging and regular blood work. But that doesn't change the high risk one must accept in taking on this competitive lifestyle.
Bro, you've had like quite a freaking inspiring background. I don't really know how you did it all, but it's kind of nuts, to be honest.
I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it, man. I love what you're doing. When you reached out, and I was like, hell yeah, let's do this. So,
yeah,
appreciate you, wanting to get me on.
I mean, business is kind of one of the things too that I've been. I have no clue about, to be honest with you. I've like just being in this bodybuilding space and creator space. It's like, I know more than anybody that when it comes to making money in bodybuilding, you just have to do it yourself. You have to figure some things out yourself. Bodybuilding is not going to make the money for you. So that's what I'm struggling with right now. And it's pretty rough, to be honest.
Yeah.
But, I'm thankful for social media.
Are you doing a good job? Like, is your podcast monetizing for you?
Yeah. So, when it comes to just my income at the moment, everything has been amazing. It's better than when I first started off as a mechanical engineer. I'm really blessed to have everything that I have, but I think it's more so like maybe it's just my own personal anxieties, but understanding that I'm reliant on sponsors and reliant on I guess the waves of social media that are out of my control. Yeah. Whether or not you are appeasing to others or not, being reliant on others' opinions or views of you and your content. And I know part of it is marketing, but obviously I never want to I know some people like to create their own character, to market their own brands, but it's just, I would rather really prefer to be myself. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's just like, I see most success in me creating a foundation, like a business. Like you and Fuad have created these amazing brands and these amazing businesses that are now supporting you and your family. And being able to support my family in the future is like my biggest goal. So I'm like, I don't want to be just like some freaking influencer for the rest of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're doing a great job. And like you said, it's scary, dude. Like because nothing's guaranteed. It's much easier to work for somebody and get a paycheck and be like, dude, I feel that safety, security. But when you're on your own, it's like you're on an island and you got to hunt for yourself in a different way. But I mean, we definitely could talk a little bit about that kind of stuff if you want, because it's been a rebranding of myself, kind of moving forward, kind of shifting out of competitive bodybuilding and still involved in the health and wellness space. But I definitely, anything I can do to help you. Like I had some ideas. I know like what you're doing. I don't know if you work with any kind of wellness clinics, Merrick or any of those companies, but we definitely could talk about how we could incorporate some of your stuff into what we're doing. I'd love to be able to, help you out in your health. Like we do some next level stuff, dude. So it's cool. Really cool.
Cool. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. Well, I guess first off, man, I was listening to some of your past histories and your past podcasts too. And I guess, were you like mid 280s, mid 290s when you were stepping on stage?
Yeah. My biggest was in 2022, 21 or 22, 20, one of those for Texas Pro, 2021. I was 292 the night before.
Jesus
the show, like literally Friday night before the show. And I think I was like 288 on stage in the morning. So
that's fucking nasty.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy because, I started taking the Kevin LeBron approach where it was like I would kind of downsize in the off season and then I would grow and go. So
how heavy would you get in the off season?
I would drop weight. I would like sit around 270, kind of what I'm sitting around right now, 265, 270. Cause I pretty much, other than like a TRT dose, I didn't really run a lot in the off season just because I wanted to give my body a break, and then I'd get on the gas for pre-contest.
Holy shit, that is so interesting.
Yeah,
so I don't feel like there's really many people that I can't really think of any competitors these days that do that, or maybe they just don't talk about it.
Yeah, and and it's crazy because a lot of people will say you're full of shit or you don't, and right. So many guys are lying like. These old time bodybuilders that are coming on and like, all I did was 200 milligrams of Deca, 200 milligrams of test. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then guys like Phil would say some shit like, all I did was 500 milligrams of test. And you're like, no, you didn't.
Did you really?
There was one recent, somebody sent it to me and he said for like the USA or where he turned pro, he did. I'm sure he didn't do what he did for the Olympia, but I'm sure it was a little bit more than what he said. So.
Yeah. There was one podcast though, where he admitted that he would never exceed 1.3 grams of tests, and that sounded pretty reasonable to me. I feel like.
Yeah, probably. You mean, yeah. I was never a super high test guy. Like I've never really creeped up more than probably 800, 900. So, structurally, I was always a big dude and genetically, so it's like I didn't. It was just more of like, how can I fill out my muscle more and fill my frame out versus like just I need to try to put as much thigh as possible. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, I took the long game on it. Shit, I started at 18 years old. I was 2003 when I started, 2004. So for me, it was the long game. It wasn't like how quick and big could I get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Are we recording? Or we like?
Yeah, we're recording. We're recording.
Do we? You want to kind of roll into it? Do anything or just?
No, I literally just jumped straight into it.
Oh,
it's pretty casual.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I was always. I was surprised myself when I was informed by Martin that he keeps his tests at 750. But I mean, when it comes to bodybuilding, like. It's always hard for people to believe, I think, just because of just the sheer mass is so impressive. But there is without a doubt, the fact is like the muscle comes from so much time, it really is such a long game. Like no matter how much you blast, you're only going to build how many pounds of mass per year, unless you're some freaking freakazoid, I guess, unless you're like Nick Walker in his first few years. But aside from that, like everyone's building maybe like 7, 10, maybe a little bit more if you're really pushing it per year, so it doesn't really matter at that point.
Yeah,
the years.
I always looked at like there's kind of an equation to bodybuilding, and for me there were certain things that I would only go so far with, and this is where I really realized it. Probably 2016, 17 was I was like, you have the nutrition component, which there's only so much food you truly can eat and assimilate. Mm-hmm. There's the drug supplement component. Yes, you can push yourself to really, really high limits. But for me personally, I was only like, I'm only going to go so far with that just because I'm thinking long term. I'm not thinking short term about my life. Mm-hmm. And then there was the training component. Like how much, that to me was the biggest variable that could change to help move the needle for me. Somebody that's been in the sport for 15 plus years at that time. See, how do I change my physique? If I hammer a ton of food, which I already eat a lot, and I take a decent amount of supplements, but I don't want to go any higher because I just don't want to risk long-term health at that point. What's the only other variable? To me, it was training. And that's when I got connected with my trainer, Gina Davis, who's a female pro bodybuilder. And, a lot of people, when I came out and said, Gina's training me, everybody's like, you got a female trainer? Is it what? But she's an absolute monster in the gym, trains hard herself. I mean, her pictures when she competed says it all. But as far as like what she was able to do with my physique, with training, with stimulus of growth and new formats of training, new intensities, etc., that's where I felt like my body really started to change and respond even more. So, yes, the food component has to be there. Yes, the supplement component has to be there, but it really was the training to me that was the game changer for me over the last like 5-6 years of my career.
Bro, I mean, honestly, I think some of these women are like the most savage trainers. To be honest, you see these girls doing like leg press until they're like crying or they're like blood coming out of their nose and shit, and it's just fucking like Jesus Christ.
Oh, dude,
I'm not training hard enough.
And there's girls that train in the gym that I'm at, that I work out of, that I train at, and I will not invite them to train with me, or I won't train with them, because they will not only cardiovascularly like absolutely crush me because they have a lot less tissue to perfuse, but as far as like strength per pound, like they're insane. I have some female clients that I do train that rival a lot of my male clients. So it's by no means just because they're a girl are they not super strong.
Yeah, and they'll fucking. I know. I saw your wife jump on Fuad's podcast, and that was a fucking awesome part. And you can just tell like they just don't give a fuck. They'll just say whatever too. So especially when they're training you. So I'll be watching like Keon's partner pushing him and training him, and I'm like, I just feel like it's such a cool recipe for success, bro.
No, absolutely. And it's, there's a good dynamic, and a lot of times people think, male, female, there's going to be some kind of sexual tension. Like, no, like it's straight business. Like, Gina was straight business, and, she was like a bro where you could, kind of hit her, fist pump her at the end of the workout. And, there was no ass slapping, so it was definitely hard.
I feel like normally naturally the ass slapping normally like dissipates away a little bit after several years.
Yeah, exactly.
When you were growing though, so if you don't mind me asking, what was like this? What was a regimen for training, nutrition? For the PEDs, like I'm assuming when you were growing though, you did have to push differently than when you do in your off season after you started doing some regular competitions in your later years.
Yeah. So in my early years, I was trained with Justin Harris, who's known Troponin online, and brilliant. Like I remember the first time I decided that I was going to do a bodybuilding show, I went to him, I met him at his house, and I'm like, hey, I want to do this. And I just printed off like little PDF, like 3-page thing from bodybuilding.com from 2003. And it was like how to compete in a bodybuilding show. Here's a structured diet and plan. I was like, this is what I'm doing. He's like, are you serious? This is what you're doing? I mean, it was a joke. It was like, something very, very elementary when it comes to competing, what really is entailed in it. And it was just, I competed from that naturally for the first several years of my career, until I was into my 20s did I start. So, I kind of built a base, and that's one of the things he told me is like, build this base naturally. And now if you're somebody starting in the 30s and you're like, I want to compete, and you've got a little bit of time under your belt with training in the gym and building some muscle, like, okay, you can kind of get in the gas, right away. But for me, I wanted, again, play the long game on this. I wasn't one to just say, I want to get as big as I can, quick as I can kind of thing. Because you saw a lot of guys early when I was competing that did that and phased out really fast. Like Trey Brewer was one of them. Phenom, dude was a freak. We competed team nationals together. He was a super heavyweight, and everybody's like, it's the next guy. And within a few years, he burned out. Jason Ha was a guy, and he had a good career for a little bit, but he kind of, hit the brakes on it and said, I'm kind of done, and went a little bit more on the business route. Guys like Justin Compton, another great bodybuilder that had an early, career that he was like, had some health issues, decided to hang it up and say, my health's more important. And I really acknowledge that, and I say that it's a smart decision. If you're considering health, and if you're going to force your body into doing things it doesn't want to do, you got to listen to it, or else you're going to suffer some dire consequences. So I say that to say, when I was getting in my early 20s, and I made the decision, hey, in order to really go to the next level, get to the next step in what bodybuilding is, go from state level to national level, or really make an impact on this and compete with the super heavyweights. Here I was, 20-year-old kid, like, pretty good base, good genetics, a lot of people talking about me, won team nationals for 2 years in the heavyweights. So I was like, hey, this is the guy you got to watch out for. But team national guys are notorious for burning out because they push so hard just to get on stage. I never really had to push so hard with like, I never pushed supplements. It was always, I just trained really hard. Justin Harris was a freak strong, so I just kept up with him. And he's like, you're freaky strong. And I just lifted weights, ate a ton of food, and I was growing. And a lot of young kids should be doing that. And I discourage a lot of young guys that reach out to say, I want to get on a cycle. What should I do? And I want to get huge. And, they see a lot of the influencers that look crazy, these young guys, and they're claiming either natural or they take just TRT or something. And they're not. So for me, it was like, how do I be safe? How do I play this right? And Justin was a great mentor for me. I remember, literally my first cycle was, he's like, there's two avenues you can go on this. You can go very conservative and let your body, like, because you really could only work up was the thought process on this. Like, if you're going to start little and work your way up as you progress in your career, or you can go huge dose out of the gate and blow up and all that kind of stuff. And I took the more conservative route, and I remember it was like 400 milligrams of EQ and like I think right around 500 milligrams of test, and like I blew up. Like my body just was like, what in the F? And I was, at night, what was I, 20, 21, and I was inclined in like 405 for reps, and doing my strength went through the roof. And people thought I was. It's funny because people thought I was not natural competing in teens, going in my early 20s, and I was like 210, 215 when I competed. And then the next year I jumped on stage, I went from like 215-ish competing all the way to like 245. And people were like, oh, he was probably natural.
Now he jumped on.
Now he really grew.
Yeah. Oh, that's fucking sick.
So from there, it was a steady progression, all the way up to ultimately close to 290 on stage. So you're looking at almost 50 pounds over, at that point, probably 20 years, maybe not a little bit less, maybe about 15 to 16 years, somewhere in there.
15 to 16 years.
Just being consistent. Consistency is what bodybuilding is all about. In anything in fitness, it's consistency. You can't do it for a week, a month, 8 weeks, and expect like these dramatic changes that are going to sustain for long term. For me, it was like, all right, we're going to be in this. I want to make a career out of this. I want to make this something that I can do and I enjoy. I love this hobby that I can make a living off of. Like, this is great. Let's go.
Yeah. I work with Patrick Tour right now, and I know he's known for making some monsters, but he says too, and he said to me personally, like, you got to focus on playing this long game in a year by year basis. And what we're going to do, like him talking to me personally about, our coaching situation, is like, we want to aim for a 7-pound increase each year. That's probably what we're going to aim for.
Which is huge. Like, go buy 5 pounds of steak from the friggin' grocery store. Like, that's a lot of meat. Like, that's a lot of now it's a little different, but that's just to give you a visual of like 5 to 7 pounds in a year is a ton of mass for sure.
Especially when it's all the juicy places.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
but
guys are always saying, I want to get big, I want to put on size. And I'm like, well, just training arms and chest is not going to put 10 pounds of muscle on you. Like, you got to hit the big body parts. You got to hit legs, you got to hit back.
Yeah.
Even chest is something you can grow pretty good, but training just arms and shoulders doesn't equate to a lot of weight on you.
Yeah. What did your calories look like when you were pushing up this weight and you were gaining in your like gaining phases?
Yeah, I would eat pretty. It's funny, I had this conversation with my wife the other day because I eat so differently now than when I did when I competed. I didn't.
How do you eat now?
I eat more for longevity, wellness, and now that I own my own like functional health clinic where I do, like gut testing and food sensitivity testing and really understanding like my body at a high level. So I mean, if I knew this 20 years ago, I could probably really dial in things differently with the way my body methylates vitamins and my genetics and all this kind of stuff. It's really cool what I know now. But now, I mean, I only eat roughly about 3 meals a day. And not as much protein, a ton of vegetables, a lot of fruit, a lot of, some starchy carbs, but, like rice, but very natural, organic, and whole food based. I try to eat minimally processed stuff. I don't have a sweet tooth, never really have. So I'm not like, I'm one of those, I'm a salt and fat guy. So I really, now that I've really dialed in my body, and this, like when you compete and you eat super clean and then you have a cheat meal, like you feel like absolute shit the next day or days following because your body's not used to eating that crap more or less. So, I've been eating so clean for so long that it's like I really enjoy eating this way. And that's what fitness really taught me over this it's a lifestyle. It's not a 3-month prep, or it's not just because to do a show and then I go completely off the deep end and start like Lee Priesting it and trying to put on 100 pounds of body fat every year and just have this freaking roller coaster up and down of my weight, my health, etc. So my thing, I'm very health conscious, very health focused now moving forward in my life and the way I do my labs all the time, etc. But predate this, like going back to my bodybuilding time, it was 6-7 meals a day. Very much like I could eat a ton of food. Like I remember at one point with Hani, when I was working with Hani, probably pre Mr. USA 2011, I think I added up. It was like I was eating like 3 pounds of chicken a day cooked and like 3 pounds of fish cooked. It was obscene, the amount of protein. It was like 10 to 12 ounces of cooked protein per meal for 6 to 7 meals.
Jesus Christ.
And a good amount of carbs. Like it took a ton of food to fuel my body because I'm 6 foot. I was, maybe 270, 280 off season, get on stage like in maybe 255, Mr. USA. I think I was right around there, 260. And so it takes an enormous amount of food to fuel, and it was pushing my body much further than necessarily, that's what I say in bodybuilding. You're pushing way past your genetic limits or what your body wants to be. You're forcing it. It's like you have to do these things, and it's very uncomfortable with training, with eating, supplementation, etc. You have to do things that are very uncomfortable. And is it the healthiest? No, it's not. And that's what I really say the pros and cons of bodybuilding. Bodybuilding teaches you structure and like eating really good at times, but then you're doing a lot of things that counteract that with the amount of food you eat. That causes a lot of stress on the body, beats the shit out of your digestive tract, trying to eat 6-7 meals a day.
Yeah.
A lot of things can happen just from the amount of food you're eating. Not that it's bad. I mean, you can create insulin, resistance by eating so many frequent meals, even though you're eating good food. Like there's a lot of things that you have to do to be cautious of it. Like even a lot of my clients that want to compete, I don't necessarily push them to 6-7 meals a day. I go more 4 or 5. Like I let their bodies rest in between meals, let their blood sugar regulate a little bit more, spend some more time with spreading meals out a little bit, and versus like the little bit old school where it was like every hour and a half, 2 hours, I got to hammer food kind of thing. Right. So it's I've changed my methods and my thought process behind a lot of that now.
And something I like too about the bodybuilding industry is like there's a lot of bro science, I would say, that was low key on point.
Yeah,
but also. I feel like the world is shifting towards more of this like middle ground where the bro science and the bodybuilding industry that used to be very prevalent, such as like frequent meal timing, and I feel like there's so many different things that bodybuilders pushed, including like the stretch even on the muscle when you're training. Is now aligning with some science, but now they're finally like being a little bit less, what's the word?
Bodybuilding about it, or like serious?
Just fucking crazy, bro. They're just less crazy. Like you're not eating like 400, 500 grams of protein anymore every day. Now it's like still higher than everywhere else in the entire world, but now like people are reaching for more like 1.5 times their weight in pounds in protein, and it's a little bit more reasonable and it's a little bit easier on the digestion. So I think it's cool to see that there's still results coming out of this, like slightly more middle ground.
Absolutely. I think this was a conversation I had with Justin Harris years ago, and he was, we were talking about the amount of protein, because you're thinking protein good. Like, as a straight meathead, you're like, protein make me big, more protein, So, he's like, well, listen, if you converted all that protein you eat, like 400 grams of protein in the muscle a day, we'd all be walking around like silverback gorillas. And that's not the case. That's not,
Right.
So do you need that much protein? Definitely not. Like, when you're talking, the school of thought now, when I'm understanding and talking about like longevity in some of my certifications and my training, it's minimal. It's like 80 grams of protein a day is what required, maybe 100, 120. And what you need to maintain a good, healthy body for the rest, like long term, to live to 100 years old plus. Is it, so eating the 400 grams of protein is great for transformational, states or periods of time in your life where you're trying to compete in bodybuilding show. And I always tell people it's very much what your goal is. Your goal is to get on the Mr. Olympia stage and achieve certain things. You got to push crazy hard. Absolutely. And do things like eat 300, 400 grams of protein. But if you're talking about just straight, like, hey, I want to be healthy, I want to have a six pack, I want to look good, like, maybe like you say, 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight is sufficient to maintain muscle, even grow, and, making sure you're getting other nutrients other than just protein, and making sure you're getting good, healthy, fibrous carbs, starchy carbs, whole foods, healthy fats, all those things. There's a good balance that you can create.
I guess what recommendations now would you give for competitors, bodybuilders to maintain a good level of insulin sensitivity?
I would say don't ignore fiber. Number one is probably the biggest thing I could say. Like, as much as you're like, why do I got to eat this broccoli? It's not going to help me get huge or whatever. Utilizing more good nutrients like fruits, vegetables, and then they say, like, eat the rainbow. We're not talking like LGBTQ stuff here. We're talking about like eating. If you like to eat freaking bell peppers, eat bell peppers. You want to eat broccoli or cauliflower, like, but have a variety. Fiber is one of the best things for your digestion. It helps. Fiber is one of the best things you could absolutely incorporate in your nutrition for your overall health. Blood pressure, cholesterol, etc. The list goes on, what it actually does. And utilizing, organic foods is important. I was very much like, I don't think it's going to make a big difference. It really does, just because we're bombarded with toxins in our foods, with the way they're farmed, the way they're processed, the way they are preserved, etc. There's just so much that our bodies are come in contact with. Like, if you could try to minimize a little of the excess stuff, it does make a difference. So I'm big on organic. Grass-fed does help. When you start adding in a lot of, just say, highly processed stuff with like, high saturated fats or stuff like that, or seed oils and all that, that's where you start running into some problems when people have a lot of inflammation issues, because really the stemming is inflammation. Bodybuilding is very pro-inflammatory with a lot of its methods, you could say. So, combating a lot of that, inflammation, there's good inflammation, there's bad. Chronic, just like stress, like acute stress is good. Chronic is not so good. Chronic inflammation, not so good. So you got to really be careful, and utilizing proper nutrition does help with that. So like fiber, like I mentioned, fibers, vegetables is, I try to shoot for like 8 to 10 cups a day. I try to eat probably 4 to 6 cups of fruit a day right now. And I eat, and I don't really measure, and I just know like what my body, where I'm satiated with my food. I still, I hold 265 right now, and I'm not trying to hold that. It's just what years of training, and people see me now, they're like, you getting ready to compete? I say, no, it's just because I eat really good. I eat clean. I eat a what you could consider a very like low inflammatory diet. I eat a lot of, I train relatively smart and consistent, and my supplementation is on point, and I tell people right now, and just because if I want to get on the gas, I can, and I know how my body would respond, but I do a little over like a half a cc of test a week right now, about 120 milligrams, 140 milligrams of test a week right now is what I do. And it keeps my test level probably between 800 and 1,000, and really that's sufficient for me, and I feel great. Now, if I want to, turn it up, I can do that. But, you know, I use leverages, I lever, you know, nutrition, I lever supplementation, I lever knowing where my body is by testing things like, you know, I do mineral analyses and like with my hair or gut testing, making sure that I'm actually utilizing what I need to be in order to keep my body optimized.
Gotcha. That's kind of cool too, that you, the same level of test that you take when it comes to TRT dosages, you end up having the same total level of test that I have as well. Like about like 140 milligrams of test lands me in probably close to 1,000, which is also crazy because I feel like you're twice my size.
You know, and that's the thing too, is like TRT is not 200 milligrams. Like it's really more like 80 to 120 is true TRT dose. I have a lot of guys that come to me and they're like, yeah, I'm taking 300 milligrams of TRT. I'm like, that's not TRT. Like let me run your blood work, and it's probably close to 2,000, and it's your body's not even able to utilize that much testosterone. Like I have a lot of guys that come to me and we restructure the way they do stuff, and they're like, I just feel so much better. I'm like, yeah, you're not taxing your body, you're not overly stressing it and pulling this lever too much, where it's like you're creating too much one way. Your body likes balance, your body likes equilibrium in things, so it's usually by going too much in one way, you're going to create a problem somewhere else where then you have to start correcting, and then it just snowballs from there.
Right. The crazy thing about that too is I don't know if this is going to change now, like whenever I do jump on my health phases, but I remember in the past when I did jump on a health phase or just jump back basically on TRT dosages, I would feel less stressed on a daily basis, like actually physiologically. So I don't know. It was always interesting.
True. It's absolutely true. It's, you know, again, your body needs to break it down. If you're just flooding your body full of tests, and you're not trying to compete. What's your goal? Go back to goals here. You're not trying to compete at a very high level or just do a basic show, or you know. But guys that are getting on the Olympia stage, different story. They're trying to push their physiology way past what it should be. But if you're, again, just trying to get in the best shape of your life, feel great, be, you know, as an alpha jacked male, like you don't need to be cranking 5-6 a gram a test a week. You know, that's just way too much on your body. It's going to cause way too much stress on your system. So, and then, like I said, there's going to be other problems you're going to have to try to start fixing. So, definitely less is more in that category, and knowing how to utilize it and structure it and how frequent to take it, et cetera. That kind of stuff, I really like helping guys to dial that in for their bodies.
What are some lifestyle interventions and maybe like supplementations that you would recommend for reducing inflammation or keeping it low? I guess both for bodybuilders and people.
Real big one. It's, you know, probably been talked about, but I really emphasize it, is omega-3 supplementation, high quality omega-3 supplementation, not the shit you buy at CVS or the grocery store. Kind of rule of thumb on the functional side is like, don't buy your supplements where you buy your toilet paper. And, you know, if you're buying the like bulk size omega-3 supplement at Costco just because it's a good deal, and the ratio of EPA to DHA is terrible and doesn't have, you know, real high quality omega-3s, you're just kind of wasting your money. In that case, yes, you know, supplementation, you're wasting your money. But getting a really high quality omega-3, and you can actually test for your omega-3 ratio now, which is cool. It's actually an inflammation test, and you'll check your 3 to 6 ratio. And most Americans are probably between, like they say, 16 to 18 to 1, and you want to be more like a 4 to 1 ratio. And I actually tested mine, and I was like between 3 and 4 to 1, because I load up on omega-3s, and I think that's a great simple way to decrease inflammation in your body. I notice definitely if I eat a lot of red meat or my saturated fat's really high, I feel the inflammation starting to creep up. I'll double up on my omega-3s, and then I start feeling that inflammation come down. So if there's one product I could say that works, it's the high quality omega-3. And we're talking, everybody's a little different, but probably in the bodybuilding world, you probably need 3-4 grams a day of that, because you know, the average person probably 1 to 2 grams, but bodybuilders, just by the amount of protein they're eating, that can trigger a little more inflammation. Sure.
Yeah. One of my friends actually forwarded me to, have you heard of Carlson's fish oil in the bottle? Yeah. That's the one I use now, and I fucking love it, the lemon flavored one. And honestly, I'll just fucking pour it over my salmon and rice. Shit's fire. But
I give that to my son. My son is an absolute like freak of nature. He's 1.5. He's coming up to his 1.5-year birthday, and I mean, I've been utilizing like a lot of the principles I use, and not so much bodybuilding, but more on the functional and holistic health type world, and you know, with utilizing a probiotic for him and utilizing really working on his gut health. And I give him, you know, because a lot of the brain health for babies is DHA derived, and I make sure he's loaded up with DHA in his body. And Carlson's one of the brands I've used, I currently use. I currently use myself. Nordic Naturals is a great, you know, because they're using sustained fish, and it's mixed with tocopherols. I'm probably saying it wrong. But that is what really helps keep the integrity of the omega-3 through its process, and that keeps the quality of it. So a 2-to-1 ratio EPA to DHA for you guys out there is really what I would recommend for the bodybuilder or common person wanting to be really optimized.
Cool. Yeah. I like that a lot. I feel like even after like I implemented more of the Carlson's fish oil and higher quality fish oils, I actually felt my joints hurting less when I was in the gym too. Cause I guess, I mean, sometimes I would pop open the caps before I transitioned to this new fish oil to check if it was rancid or not. But like, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if some of those fish oils did oxidize more than would have been beneficial for, I don't know, my nutritional needs.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, if you're buying and I'm not knocking Amazon, and Amazon's great, but they're not maintaining typically a lot of the requirements that it is to storage on a lot of these supplements that usually require a very controlled temperature, or sometimes refrigerated. And they're just sitting in a warm warehouse. And like you said, it's likely going to be oxidized, and you're losing its integrity, and it's not going to be as good. You're just kind of wasting your money. So if anybody on here, you could reach out to me and I could point you in the right direction. We kind of have a dispensary we work with for supplements on that side. So, but it's, like a lot of the times like, oh, my fish oil is stored in the fridge. My high quality omegas are stored in the fridge. And a lot of them will say, like, once you open, you should consume within 30, 60 or 90 days. There's a reason behind that. You know, doesn't necessarily, you shouldn't be having fish oil for 2 years, but like, oh, it's still good. Like, it's probably not.
Yeah.
I guess another one I could hit on, I think is fantastic. NAC for you guys. NAC is a big game changer for, not only does it help the detox pathways, help your body detox, especially on the liver side. It's a product I love to use in my practice, work with a lot of clients on that, and a good dose, I'd say anywhere from 600 to 1200 milligrams. You know, if you're really beating the crap out of your liver, you can probably go a little higher. But NAC is an amazing product. Even you can add glycine to that to kind of help boost some of the detox pathway on that. And it's that one is a fantastic product. I mean, it works on inflammation, heart health, the liver, everything. So good quality acetylcysteine is a one of the common products I put a lot of my clients on.
Awesome. Yeah. One of my personal protocols, I take NAC daily, and then I'll like maybe every twice a week around there, I'll like inject around 2 milliliters of glutathione. I'm trying to remember how many that is in milligrams. I don't know why I'm blanking out right now, but yeah, anyways, it's
probably like, they usually remember you 200 to 300 per ml on the glutathione.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's 200 per, so it's about 400 milligrams. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that just helps so much, dude. And I honestly I've gotten actually sick once in, I'd say, the last 4 years. Yeah. And I think it's all because of implementing these nutritional like interventions and also doing the glutathione and NAC. Yeah. So it's dope.
No, it's you know, and sometimes, I mean, glutathione is a pretty expensive supplement for most people, and it's a great supplement. But NAC also boosts your natural glutathione levels. Yeah. So I encourage a lot of people, like, it's kind of like the analogy I could use is like the natty versus TRT kind of guy. Mm-hmm. I'd rather kind of give my body, in this case, something that will help it boost its natural levels and let it do what it wants to do with the glutathione, with the like take it NAC to boost my glutathione up. I want it to kind of work how it wants to work versus like forcing it. Like I'm just going to give it testosterone just because it needs it. Like I'd rather give myself more NAC so it'll boost my natural glutathione up. Now there's time and place where glutathione is needed under, again, severe stress, super high inflammation, super, if you're super toxic, liver enzymes, et cetera, like, yeah, you're going to need some straight glutathione to kind of help you out. But not always required if you're supplementing NAC, a good quality NAC.
Yeah, makes sense. I think I was thinking more of like an intense bodybuilding competitor perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
And that's, like looking at it now, I probably wish I had kind of utilized more of these products. Again, there wasn't a lot of literature or knowledge about it as there is now. When I competed, just to kind of help my body and with inflammation, with detoxification, with giving my liver more support, et cetera. And a lot of the sports supplement brands, they try to get a little sexy with formulas and put a lot of like unnecessary stuff in there. So it's like you really don't need it, or it's not something that's going to move the needle that much. But there's a lot of basic things, and that's where even more so in the recent and understanding like epigenetics and doing testing for it. If your body's not methylating vitamins properly, it's going to cause some inflammation issues, especially on the B vitamin side. And that's one that I've really leaned on a lot with my clients and doing some really cool stuff myself. I stay super dry and lean, and like my inflammation is very low in my body. And people are always like, "How you stay so lean?" I was like, "Well, because I'm not really inflamed, and I'm not, I don't eat like crap. Like there's just basic things that I do and give my body what it needs. And if you're like an unhealthy body can't be overweight, and it can't be sick and inflamed." So
yeah. What would you recommend in that sense? I actually just started implementing vitamin B complex and methylfolate before bed with my L-tryptophan. But I don't know if that's
not everybody needs it. It's real popular. Gary Brecka made it super popular with the 10X Health. They were doing all their testing and pushing methylfolate, and he's right. Most people have some kind of genetic variation where they're going to be a little deficient. And one of the tests I run on a lot of my blood work is homocysteine, and that typically is a marker that will show where you're insufficient of methylating the B vitamin, where by taking a good quality methylated B vitamin complex, it can lower that homocysteine number, which is going to be another inflammation marker we're talking about. That will definitely help your overall health and energy. I would shift that, taking the B vitamin complex at nights to take it in the morning, because a good quality B vitamin complex can kind of, it's like taking a 5-hour energy right before bed. Like that idea, it's not going to be, that's what 5-hour energy is, just loaded with B vitamins. So you're going to get that like surge of energy and being more awake, but not like stimulated. The B vitamins can do that with like really good ones. So that I would say move that to the morning. Nighttime, like if you took a B6, like a good quality P5P, which is like the methylated version of B6, like that at night is not going to make, but like the methylfolates, the B12s, like those complexes that are all put together, those are best take more in the morning because they can affect you getting good sleep.
Okay, I see. I think I probably need to do a little hunt down my research on figuring out exactly which B vitamins are the most beneficial for converting L-tryptophan to serotonin. Because I think that was my discussion with Dr. Dean about helping me sleep, and I think reducing the catecholamine so that I stop overthinking at night.
Yeah.
And I just bought a whole vitamin B complex. So I should probably honestly hone that down and be a little bit more specific with my supplementation there. But thanks for that advice.
I've been training for over 15 years now, and I was too lazy to track anything training wise for about the first 10 years because science-based training is for pussies. But I kept hitting plateaus from burnout, fatigue, joint issues, and injuries, and other factors that at the time I didn't really fully understand, realizing not everyone is built to handle the intense and same workload and injury resilience as Tom Platz and Ronnie Coleman, sad face. I wanted to speed run that shit, but the reality is dudes that have always known their body best are the ones that have been lifting for at least a decade. Shit takes a long ass time to figure out. I started tracking all my training on the Notes app on iPhone because I don't know what paper is. Until recently, I started using the RP Hypertrophy app. The RP Hypertrophy app spoon feeds you step-by-step workouts tailored towards whatever your focus is, or you can customize the workout yourself. Well-educated coaches have always cost $250 to $500 or more a month. I'm paying $500. That's like 10 bottles of testosterone. But if you're not competing or you don't have the money to spend, the app will adjust your program for you every week to maximize your long-term growth. It'll base this on your pump, how fatigued you feel, how your joints feel, and more. It takes in everything into account, none of which I took into account in college because the only accounting I did was counting how many dumpies were in my class. Look, there's a titty. If you don't believe in science-based training, you don't got to do no 3 RIR shit. You can just hoist heavy steel and track it, because we all know that the people who say that they remember their weight sets and reps every week are full of shit. IMO, there's a sort of middle ground where you track your progress and make sure all the variables are right in your food, sleep, gear, progressive overload, and then you go to the gym and slam those heavy PRs until your blood pressure is higher than Miley Cyrus. If you're still unsure, they've got a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you still don't like it and it gives you a bad tan, you can get your money back. That way, when you compete at your next show, your tan doesn't cost you the first place that you so well deserve. So go to the link in the description below, or you go to rpstrength.com/Nile and use code Nile at checkout. That's rpstrength.com/Nile, code Nile at checkout.
This is something actually I wanted to ask you earlier because we kind of trailed off. But you mentioned something about, I'm trying to remember what exactly we were discussing earlier, but it popped the question in my head to ask, I guess. Would you happen to have any advice for competitors now, what they should look for when it might be time for them to, I guess, hang up the towel and stop competing?
That's a good one. A lot of guys ignore a lot of signs in that. I mean, are we talking real high level, or are we talking a little bit more like just in general?
I feel like I would lean towards high level, just since I feel like that's where the health consequences happen more often.
Yeah. For what I can see, usually I have a pretty good eye. I can see a body and I can say, you know what, that's reached its absolute pinnacle. And if they still try to push more, it's going to not be good. It's not going to look good anymore. Like, for instance, I could say when Lunsford won the Olympia, that's his peak. To me, that was his peak. And to try to get bigger, add more size, that frame, one, can't hold it anymore. Two, like, you start noticing guys' stomachs and midsection start to change. It's multifactorial on that. It's not just, say, insulin or growth hormone, like a lot of people say. It's the amount of food that's consumed. It's
100%.
They're trying to force a shitload of protein in their body, and it's not assimilating. They're having, they're beating up their digestive tract as well. So, and then to me, it's like when that body doesn't have that flow or pop, they're just trying to, like, what else could I throw at it that's going to make it stick? And I could see it with guys, like, they don't have that. Like, their quads don't quite flare like it used to, or the midsection's expanding. They're starting to lose a lot of that conditioning, or it's just kind of like it's their season, and it's not, their bodies don't look prime. It don't look fresh. And, some of these guys just, I mean, freaks like Dexter Jackson can do that, but Dexter was off season. You couldn't even tell if the guy even worked out half the time. I mean, he was a freak. He was an absolute freak when you looked at him on stage, and he maintained that till his late 40s, early 50s. I can't even remember. Like, he looked incredible, but he did that by giving his body rest in the off season, by doing things smart. Guys that stay on the gas all year round, or 11 out of 12 months, are like, I take 1 month off. Like, no, you need to, when it's showtime, like, for me, that's why I said when it was showtime, I got on the gas 6 months, whatever it was, 7 months. And then I gave my body a rest the other 6 to 7 months out of the year, just to give it enough time to, heal. I'd do labs and not as much as I would do now what I know, but, I think when, guys got to really start taking a look at their health. Like, what's your blood pressure doing on a daily basis? How are you continually having to take more and more drugs to try to achieve a certain look? Do you feel like you're not getting in that same conditioning and just trying to do more and more and more because your body's just burning out? It's just too much. And, I've had this conversation with a few guys before, and just trying to help them understand, like, there's a point, and it sucks. Yeah, you're a competitor. You don't want to hang it up. You want to compete as long as you can, and that's the way you're making your living. I get it, but you have to think about a little bit long-term health if you want to be able to have any life after bodybuilding. So it's an important question to ask, an important thing to help guys to look for. Bodybuilders are a little bit stubborn sometimes. They don't want to admit some straight facts, like, hey, you know what? I'm not looking like I looked 3 years ago. I peaked, some guys could take some time off, come back and look really good. Bonac is one that surprised me recently. He took some time to kind of reset his body a little bit, and he's not a spring chicken, and he looked phenomenal in the last couple of shows he did. So,
right.
And I think there's something to say about genetics on that. I call it Afronetics. Like, let's just be real, man. Like, the white dudes, we fall apart, and they,
that
like,
black don't crack, bro.
Yeah, shit. It's just not fair. So, I mean, there's truth to that. There's clinical proof. Just look at those guys. So, yeah, I mean, there's multifactorial, but we definitely, when you see a physique just not looking the same, and guys are just, keep showing up, their legs are getting smaller. They're not, there's nerve damage in tissue where it just doesn't, like lats there's one lat that's either torn, or if it's nerve damage. Like, there's so many things to look at and be like, guys, like, if you really want to have any kind of life after bodybuilding, or if you want to be Ronnie Coleman, then let's have this conversation.
Gotcha. I see. I guess on the other side, I assume that it's even harder to determine this way, but is there any, I guess, like, are there any internal indicators, such as like on blood work, or, I mean, I'm assuming, of course, if you see things in scans and it's like, dude, you have this much arterial plaque, then it's probably time for you to start reversing things. But I mean, I guess it's hard to kind of dictate when is the measure that someone should look out for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at basic metabolic tests. You look at stuff like your liver enzymes. If they're always way elevated and you're not getting in the chance to get down into normal levels, that's something you got to look at. If your cholesterol is disgustingly screwed up between your total triglycerides, HDL, LDL, like if your ratios are off, then, you could ignore that for so long. But, then you got to look at kidney function. There's obviously the test with kidney function, your BUN, creatinine, your EGFR ratios, all that kind of stuff. Like if your kidneys are suffering from years of, water loading, depleting, diuretic, et cetera, that's stuff you got to look at. I mean, there's a lot of internal markers you can actually check that will indicate, obviously hormonally we destroy our bodies. I mean, if you were to, take a guy off all his drugs and test him 3 months later, I mean, you look at this guy like he has zero testosterone in his body, estrogen is probably super high. Every other hormone like pregnenolone, DHEAs in the tank, like everything is just destroyed because it's what we do to try to achieve a certain look. But, yes, scans would be the next thing, go and get an echo on your heart. Obviously heart's a muscle. And if it's something like, if you have an athlete's heart, and have had several done, to where a lot of guys have left ventricular hypertrophy from years of heavy lifting and force. And if it's starting to affect your body's ability to pump blood through the body and make it less efficient, there's an issue there. That's something you got to look at that could affect you long term. Now, if it doesn't, if just say you have a strong heart, that's great. But that's something that those are things to consider. Like you said, doing a calcium score test, that's another great one that guys should start checking. Again, a lot of these things are genetic. Like if you're genetically predisposed to certain things and you're living a certain way that's causing these to go up, you're going to be affected. And one of the cool sayings that I like to tell people when we're on a call and I'm saying, going over genetics, because they're like, well, genetically I'm predisposed to having diabetes because my mom had it. I said, well, just because genetics is like having a loaded gun, but your lifestyle is what pulls the trigger. So it doesn't mean you're going to have diabetes just because your mom had it, but she probably ate like crap and didn't work out and take care of herself. So it's important that you do certain things on a regular basis to avoid having these. Yeah.
Facts. Dr. Dean and I were talking about how we both got our genetics tested. We got our results from, we got our raw data from 23andMe and put it in this site called Prometheus. And it gives you like this just rundown of all your genetic coding and whatever. But it's kind of cool though, because then you get to see like what all your genetic predispositions are, like your different risks and everything. And sometimes it gets a little scary, but I mean, as a bodybuilder though, it's kind of dope because then you can like think about places where, you know, there's so many places that you have to look at in terms of your health, but then it like kind of hones down on where are good places for you to focus on, you know? Right. So, and like one of those, for example, for me is like Alzheimer's and dementia seem to be something that are a potential possibility for me. So now I'm like literally looking at all the neuroprotective methods that I can implement now, just because I don't know, man. That's just, it's a little scary for me.
It is. It's a terrible disease. You know, they're really calling it type 3 diabetes now, with that. And it's not something that happens overnight. It happens over 20 or 30 years of really abuse to your body. So it's like, don't think if, you know, you go through a little stressful phase of life or something happens and you're going to get it in a year. Like that's not usually how it happens. Mm-hmm. And so the basic, probably most fundamental rule you could say for your brain is if it's good for your body, it's good for your brain. So I again, you know, that's where, you know, doing things like, you know, checking stuff like A1C, checking your fasted glucose levels, making sure you're not having a lot of issues with insulin resistance and inflammation in the body. You know, you start looking at lifestyle factors that can reverse and even help a lot of the potential effects of Alzheimer and dementia and all that kind of stuff. And there's so much data now, and there's a protocol I use for some people that are having some early onset stuff, that, you know, you can get some testing done to actually see if there's some issues going on. And then you can start looking at, and one of the basic things is crazy as it sounds, is looking at lifestyle and really dialing in nutrition and dialing in a lot of the things that the fitness and bodybuilding world already do. So it creates all these health benefits because you work out and exercise regularly, and do cardio and are very active with your physical health. So it's doing principles, understanding nutrition for people and getting them more active and keeping their brains active as you age. You know, we have a tendency to, you know, be a little bit more vegetables, like watching TV and just sitting on our phone all day. So it's important to kind of exercise your mind, you know, pick up try to learn an instrument. Doing things that stimulate your brain is important as we continue to age.
Yeah. I was at my girl's family in Kentucky for like I think we were for Easter, and we were playing this game. It's like it's this game for kids. It's called Memory, and you like put down a bunch of like it was animals, and they're all face down, and there's like 2 matches of each animal, right? So you got to like, basically each person is going to flip over a card, and then they flip over a second card. If it matches, they get the cards. If it doesn't match, they got to flip it back over, and everyone around the circle has to memorize where it was, right? So they can get it the next time. And I fucking lost the game. The kids beat me, my girl beat me, her dad beat me. I fucking lost the game, bro. So I'm like, I gotta fucking do something with my brain because this isn't working out really well, this bodybuilding thing.
That's funny. Yeah, similar story. I had recently misplaced I was washing my car with my son. He was helping me, and I take my Oura ring, and I had my wedding ring off. I put it in my pocket. And then like later in the day, I'm like, oh man, I can't find my ring. And I was in my pants, and I'm like, I can't find it. And I'm like thinking, am I losing it? My wife's like, are you losing it? You're losing your shit. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I just, you know, it's called just a little bit overwhelmed with some of the stuff I got work on the plate right now. But yeah, that's always in the back of your mind. Like, I want to make sure I stay, you know, obviously, you know, mind and body are very important to maintain. Not just a certain look. Like, yes, it's great to look a certain way and have a 6-pack and be shredded because, you know what, you're going to win Instagram. But hey, I want to be healthy on the inside and healthy upstairs too.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you this in the beginning, but I got trailed off because there's like a million things that I want to talk to you about. Honestly, I could talk to you all day, but if you don't mind me asking, because I know some people are familiar with your story, but I'm sure that a lot of people in my audience also aren't. But I know that you've experienced some hardships out there, and that you were also, you know, you're also a firefighter and also had your own businesses while you're competing. So if you don't mind me asking from the beginning, I guess, like what got you into bodybuilding in the first place, and what continued on from there?
It was, I loved training. I loved lifting. Like that was my drug of choice, you could say. Like in my early years, I loved I played sports, so it's like lifting and getting stronger, and you'd think, oh man, I'm getting that little horseshoe in my tricep. Shirt's getting tighter in my arm. This is great, and it's like that old school, like, oh, the pump. I was a teenager in the gym, and I had not that results came easy, but I got results fairly easy from working out because I trained hard. I trained heavy. I didn't know any better. It's just I was like, oh, I'm just going to pick a bunch of weight up and move and do some of these basic compound lifts that my football coach was telling me and all this. So I loved that, and then I started. I got a membership at what would be considered a bodybuilder's gym when I lived in Detroit. It was a powerhouse gym, and a lot of people that competed were there. So they were all like, you know what, you have a ton of potential. Like, you need to do this because you can do really well. So I had people around me encouraging me. That led me into deciding to get into bodybuilding and wanting to pursue this. I think anything you have a lot of success in, or that not necessarily that it comes easy. I mean, I worked my ass off, but I had a lot of success because I reaped fruit of my harvest of working hard, and that's kind of the like that saying of my hobby turned into my career. And as you know, bodybuilding is very expensive, and when you're coming up, and this was not in the days of social media, just to get on a magazine cover that came out once a month was huge, or getting an article written about you was huge.
Yeah.
There was no podcast. There's none of that stuff. So, for me, I had, again, like I said, I had a lot of success early on. I won team nationals at 18 and 19 years old. And as a heavyweight, I won a big like pro-am show at 20. And so like I had a lot of people write, there's articles written about me. This was like in the message board days of like the muscle mayhem and all that kind of stuff. And so I wanted to do this full time, but then it led me into, well, how do I freaking pay for it? And I loved the body. I loved learning about it. So I was like, I want to pursue firefighting. I had friends they had a great schedule. There's 24 hours on, to get 48 hours off. I'm like, perfect. I can work, my 24-hour shifts, and I can focus on bodybuilding when I'm off.
That's crazy.
So, that career just fit. And I loved working as a firefighter. It was a very rewarding career. It's something that, is not for everyone. And you work your ass off, you get your ass beat, you get spit on, pissed on, shit on, thrown up on, see the worst of the worst. But at the end of the day, when you help somebody, it's very rewarding. And it also allowed me to pursue bodybuilding at a very high level, and I had a lot of support through my career there. And then I eventually got to a point where I was like, in order for me to really go to the next level and be as successful as I can be in bodybuilding, I need to I came to the fork of the road, and I said, let's go bodybuilding full time. At the time, I was able to support myself via bodybuilding by sponsorships. And winnings, and doing starting my own business type stuff, where I was like, if you're in bodybuilding, if you're in fitness, unless you have your own brand of something, but you are your own brand. Like Steve Kuclo was his own brand. So I was always making sure I represented myself the best, always look the part, be the part. Like, I'm not going to walk around 350 pounds out of shape and be like, oh, I'm a top bodybuilder. People are going to look at me like I'm crazy. Like, I want to walk around looking like every room I walk into, I want to demand, like, that freaking dude looks like a statue, because he's, I guess he must be a bodybuilder, or, people would always sometimes say he's a pro wrestler or whatever. It's just because I look the part. I want to be the best I can be. And I still have that mentality today. Like, anything I want to do, whether I'm coaching or training a client or in my business, whatever, or being a father or husband, I want to be the best I can absolutely be. And, that's really what drove me into kind of being a firefighter and bodybuilder at the same time, to eventually become a bodybuilder full time.
Gotcha. I'm trying to remember exactly, the discussion, but, I feel like there were some things that you went through during your bodybuilding career, maybe. And, I'm not sure how related these were to your other career paths while you were bodybuilding, but, I was hoping just to ask you a little bit if you be up to expounding on that.
Yeah. I mean, like in what category?
I'm gonna be honest, I'm frying this because I listened to this way back, and I can't remember what it was because I'm brain farting right now. But I guess when you finished When you were competing as a bodybuilder, I know you started doing some stuff with your business as well. And then how long were you firefighting for? And then when did you start implementing these businesses as well?
So I was actively paramedic firefighter for the city of Dallas for 10 years. Probably right after I turned pro in 2011 is, there was only a handful of guys doing this. And I took a page out of Jay Cutler's book, because he was kind of a guy that I more or less admired and idolized in my early days of bodybuilding. Like, man, this guy is somebody that I look up to. He's paved a really clear path on how to be successful in the sport. So it was him and Phil Heath, and then I decided to make a t-shirt line myself. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to have some apparel that anytime I go to appearances, because guest appearances, posings, all that were very prevalent during that time, early, like 2010, 2011, 2015, all the way like through that. So I was like, I'm going to have my own apparel line, have t-shirts, that swag, that kind of stuff. And then that eventually led into, starting a more robust fitness apparel line, more focused on women's apparel, that I ended up on Shark Tank with my ex and all that. And we had it was a very successful business venture. And that was something, again, like, I didn't go to school for that, but I felt like bodybuilding, again, when bodybuilding teaches you a lot of great life lessons, it teaches you like a lot of fortitude and working hard and being focused. So I was able to apply these principles I learned in bodybuilding and say, hey, I'm going to apply them to business. And I don't know every answer, but I'm going to find it. I'm going to get a coach. I'm going to hire somebody that knows how to maybe structure business or how to market that I don't know how to do, or how to do certain things. So, and I think like looking back now, I would even go deeper in that, like hiring coaches or people that are in business advisors, etc., where I was a little bit more like, I'm just going to figure this out myself. I want to do this myself. Like, but there's a lot of value in hiring people. And that's why hiring coaches to help you with your health and competing, et cetera, is a great idea if they're good. But for me, like I always thought, like you said early in this, bodybuilding is great. Fitness is great. I love being an influencer, all that, but there's a window of opportunity with that. And I wanted to figure out, okay, when that door closes, making sure I have runway after that, I can continue to take off and fly and do what I have to do to provide for my family and maintain a great income and the lifestyle I want to have, and really having a clear vision of that. And sure, there's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of like, when I, obviously not actively competing and pursuing that, but going more into what was my next chapter in life and how do I expand in what I know or what I enjoy. There was a lot of reinventing myself in the last few years. That was not easy. So like there was huge struggle in that, because, you can do a million things. You feel like I'm the kind of person, like, what, somebody tells me I can start my own landscape. I'm just going to give you an example, like landscape business, and then I can own a jewelry store and I can own a gas station. Like, I'll say, shit, I could do it all. Like, bring it on. But I was literally spreading myself way too thin, and I was trying to do a million things. And I'm like, nothing's working because I can't put the focus, time, and effort into it. So how do I establish a good, really dig into my business? So I hired a coach, my coach, Matt Park, and he's one that really made me focus, say, go a mile deep versus a mile wide. And I said, that's exactly right. And I learned to say no. I have people reach out to me all the time, wanting to do this, wanting to do that. Let's start this. I could help you with this. And I'm just like, no, I don't have the time. And now with my son and my wife, like, my time is the most valuable thing. And if somebody's going to take it or offer it, it better be utilized, or something that is a great opportunity from A to Z, not just an idea that I'm going to have to put so much time, effort, and work into that, it's going to be all on me to accomplish. So learning to say no was a huge thing for me in the last few years, and really going in a mile deep with my businesses that I do, and everything kind of feeds into each other right now. So I have like a full wellness company that feeds into, I have personal training and concierge health that I do for high performance health for guys and women. I have my bodybuilding show that I put on every year. So everything's kind of fitness umbrellaed, more or less, health and fitness. And then it all does funnel into what I do, Steve Kuclo, that's ultimately is. So I don't try to expand too much into different areas. I've just brought on a regenerative medicine branch, so I'm able to do stem cell and all that kind of stuff for my clients.
Yeah.
So there's branches I bring into the business, but again, I'm focusing on my business and how to make sure I expand that the most versus trying to do 10 other things that are completely in different arenas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Allostatic load is something that I've been talking about a lot with a lot of my guests recently, just because I guess it's an aspect of bodybuilding that's not always, or at least in the past, definitely has not been discussed a lot, because in the past it was like, if you're a bodybuilder and you want to be the best, you got to do it all. You got to train as hard as possible. You got to eat the diet perfectly. You got to be on top of everything perfectly. But it's just like, man, you also got a life, right? You also got to like make money, right? Like, dude, that's a lot on your plate, not just like physically, but mentally. So how the fuck do you manage all of that? So
it's super hard. And I had the conversation with a client earlier today because he's doing his first show and he's super focused and he's got a super successful business. So the guy's, he makes a great living, but wanting to do this kind of as a bucket list thing. I said, that's amazing. That's great. Let's do this. I got you. But the people that are like, I want to do this, but don't have a means of income. And then they're going to be like an old animal ad. If you ever saw those, where they're like a guy in his basement of his mom's house with like a dozen egg whites, saying like, I don't care about life. I just got to get to the gym to get my set in kind of thing. Like those old hardcore ads, the mentality of a bodybuilder. I get it. And it is very selfish a lot of times. Like you do have to push away so much of life that is fruitful, that is enjoyable, to just try to accomplish one thing. It's very hyper-focused, but, again, creating balance is important on that. But understanding that you have to have a stream of income or revenue with this in order, if you want to pursue this at a real high level. That's why I pursued it. That's why I wanted to be a firefighter, because I was like, well, I could fund and live the way I need to live in order to pursue this as well. So, I could go over to the Middle East. A lot of those guys are, paid to go over there and train in like Oxygen Gym. And, are pretty much given a stipend and, everything's paid for, and that's great. And you could do bodybuilding 100%. I just never wanted to do that because I felt like I wanted to live my life here and have balance.
Yeah. What do you feel like has given you the most anxiety back when you were competing, back before you retired?
I think the thing that would give me the most anxiety was like missing the mark. Like not being ready, because it's, again, we're in a very subjective sport, and you're always like you say, you always want to eat perfect, train more, do more, more as in bodybuilding. Like it feels like there's never enough, and you always want to push yourself to the next level. So the anxiety for me came into, am I doing enough? And am I going to be ready? Am I going to look my best? And I never focused on really the other guy. I was never focused on who's doing the show, because I was like, I only have control of myself. So my only focus was really what I can do and bring to the table.
Gotcha. Is there anything that came from outside the competition arena that caused an immense stress on you?
Firefighting was a big stress. And, there was nights I was up 24, days I was up 24 hours getting my ass kicked when I work on the ambulance, where I was making 23, 24 calls in a 24-hour period, where I didn't get to sleep at all, missed meals. But I didn't let it, that was an extreme stress on my body, but I never let it be an excuse for me not being successful or achieving what I wanted to achieve. I never was using that to say, well, I guess I'm going to play second because I didn't get my full sleep every night. No, it taught me that I was capable of doing some really stressful shit and accomplishing some really amazing stuff by staying focused and not making excuses and just pushing through, and just showed me that our bodies are capable of some really incredible tasks and things, pushing myself way past what my mind said, oh, it's going to be too hard, but my body's way more capable.
I love that. I think that's fucking awesome, because I think it's so easy for us to forget just how capable we are of things. And it's, especially in times of stress and anxiety, it's just like, I don't know, it's almost overwhelming to that. I think we just by default feel like there's such a cap on what we can achieve and such a limit on what we will, and I mean, I see this in so many different places. For example, like Or am I going to end up later in life? Am I going to have the living that I want? Or like how big and how fucking shredded can I even look as a natural? Like how far can I get? Like people don't even, I feel like these days people just have this, like the lowest belief in what's achievable as a natural. So now everybody is starting to look kind of like a fake natty.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, I don't know what's true. Obviously I have no clue, but I like to believe that we're capable of way more than we think, you know, and I think you're a pretty good example of that. It's kind of fucking insane that you spent like 24-hour shifts not sleeping and you're able to achieve what you did.
Yeah. I turned pro, won the Mr. USA in one of the, you know, at the time there was only 2 pro cards given out at that show and only a handful every year. And I always said like the nationals back in like the late, like 2008 to 2012, 14, like that was more publicized than a lot of pro shows because everybody wanted to know who's the next pro, who's the guys that are going to get the pro cards. And MD, like if it was 8 weeks in from the show, MD was in town every weekend filming my workouts, and it was in the trenches, and it was I think kind of a mini golden age of bodybuilding for the internet era and early stages of that. And it was great to be awesome to be a part of it. But it like you said, I won that show working on one of the busiest ambulances in the city of Dallas, getting my butt kicked, you know, and I remember getting off shift sometime, like damn near falling asleep at the wheel on the way home because I was so tired, so like hypocaloric, so just beat to shit. But I didn't make any excuse. I was able to figure it out and work my hardest and just give it my all, and it paid off.
Yeah, yeah. Weren't you doing DC training too? Like when you were around that time when you first started?
Yeah, that was 2003, 4, 5. When Justin Harris and I trained together, we were DC advocates. A lot of the, you know, it was more or less kind of the Dorian style training, just very high intensity, rest pause sets. And it wasn't quite the full blown like DC, like Dante really recommends, but we you know, we did end up blogging stuff. We kept, and I remember doing this as a natural for several years, and it does beat the crap out of your body because it's super heavy. Like I remember when Justin's like, all right, now we're going to squat 4 or 5 for 20 reps because that's what you got to do on DC. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then one time he walked in and he's like, all right, we're going to do 500 for many reps as we can do. And I said, that sounds horrible, but all right, I'll try it.
Shit.
I mean, there's videos that I have like from early YouTube days. I mean, probably 2006, 5, something like that, that I was squatting 500 pounds at 20 years old for reps. Like,
did you say front squatting?
Front squatting.
Jesus Christ,
yeah,
dude.
like,
what the fuck?
And I didn't know better. I just did it. So yeah, this is pre-Instagram days. I see a lot of these guys lifting now, and I was like, yeah, there's something pretty strong, but I was like, shit, if I had Instagram back in the day, I could have been a superhero with my lifts.
No, for real, that's fucking nuts. How do you feel like your training had changed over your competitive career? Do you feel like it had?
Oh, absolutely. Like I had to adapt. Obviously with training heavy and hard, it beats the crap out of your body. Your joints will 100%. Take a beating. Regardless of how enhanced you are, you know, when you come off, you're like, whoa, okay, now my body's talking to me. Like you can get away with a lot when you're on and, you know, DHT levels super high and you're freaking Superman. Like your recovery's through the roof, all that kind of stuff. And then you come off, you're like, wait a second, like it hurts to get out of bed. This isn't good. So, you know, for me, it was, all right, we gotta be smarter about the way we train. We can't be throwing around 200 pounds. I mean, I was super strong. I was, you know, incline pressing 200 pounds. I military press 405 for reps. There's video. I'm not just saying there's video. I got videos in archives about this stuff. And if I still lifted like that, I think I would definitely be a lot. I mean, can I still do some of that? Yeah, I'm still pretty strong, but my ego knows better now not to do that because it's I'm risking a lot for nothing. It's like I need to put a focus on, you know, lifting smarter, not harder. When I lift now and in the later part of my career, I focused on protecting my lower back. It was one of the biggest things. You know, heavy squats year and deadlifts for, you know, year after year. My lower back took a beating. And then this probably about 10 years ago was the first time I really got into the regenerative medicine side, and I got some stem cell injected in my back. And that made a big difference to try to give me some more time into the extreme lifting that I did in bodybuilding. So that's why I'm a believer in regenerative medicine now, because of my success and experience with it. So, utilizing more of the future health stuff now, like, you definitely can expand careers, no doubt. So, but you have to be smart.
Cool.
You have to, sometimes there's too much ego. Like, you don't have to always grab the 200-pound dumbbells and do stuff. You could make lighter weight harder by doing it right, more focus. And there is a lot more education on that and a lot more emphasis on that for people. So, I mean, you see those little funny memes or like little video side-by-side videos, like Ronnie training in 2001 versus like the guy that's like real strict and controlling now with doing weight. Like, there's funny videos.
Dr. Mike
but
memes.
the super science guys are going to be like, yeah, you need to train like that, not train like Ronnie. But then the bro science guys will be like, well, let me see. Ronnie's 300 pounds shredded. Yes, it's superior genetics, but that guy in the video is 150 pounds saying you need to do this, but barely any muscles. So you got to meet somewhere in the middle here. Like, there's a combination of some, moving
For
some
sure.
weight, intensity, and then using proper form.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, just, you go hard, but be conscious about it, be a little careful and shit. And not many people are being careful when you're trying to throw around 5-10 plates. So that's obviously coming from experience.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
Is there any type of training that you feel like ended up, I guess, working the best for you? I guess, like, what did your sets and your reps look like? How much volume did you feel like you do on a day-to-day basis?
Into where I think my training really cranked up was, again, pre-contest, because that's when everything was turned up for me. And I felt like there was a sweet blend because of my body and what I felt I responded to from when I trained early in my career of just lifting heavy ass weight and moving a ton of weight. It was in combination when I started adding more volume to it, doing a lot of supersets, drop sets, high intensity on that component too. Combining those really worked to take my body to the next level. Because I felt like for years I was competing in that 265, low 270s for a while. And then I made that big jump when I started training with Gina in my, and where we started incorporating like a lot of volume, but training heavy, doing like giant sets of stuff. Milos is big in this kind of like giant set and superset where it's a lot of volume, but you're also lifting pretty damn heavy too for that. And the combination of the two is where I felt my body like grew. And that's when I said early on with that equation of whether it's going to be food, supplementation, or training, that's where the training I felt like really dialed in for me. It wasn't just go lift super heavy. It wasn't go just do, lightweight and a ton of reps to get a pump. Like, it's like, no, go train hard, go intense, and with intentionality, but also focusing on volume and getting as much blood and that we can into the muscle, through each workout. And I felt that's what really started changing the shape of my body.
Okay. I feel like I can kind of relate a little bit. Patrick Tuor has his own like little SST type training program. And in it, he implements like on the second exercise, there's like 2 sets per exercise. And on the second exercise, you implement one of those. And normally the SST set, or basically like this little intensifier at the end of the set, is something like the rest pause set, for example, where you like rest for 20 seconds, do as many reps as you can again, rest for 20 seconds, as many reps as you can again until you hit like 1 rep, for example. Or there's like a drop set where you slow the eccentric to about 4 to 5 seconds until failure again. And it's just like all these intensifiers, but also like time elongators. And I always, at the end of the set, I'm always just like, this is the best pump I've ever gotten every single time. And I know there's a lot of controversy right now on like what is the most optimal way to, induce hypertrophy, especially because there's a lot of this science-based training that's prevalent, right? And a lot of it is true, right? You should focus on a stretch for a lot of the exercises, but I don't know. I think I almost feel like there isn't enough credible research on some of these methodologies that we implemented as bodybuilders, and I almost wonder, are all these extra things that we are doing as bodybuilders that are like changing our genetic coding through, synthetic implementation and stuff, is this also part of why we can grow so much from doing these things. So I don't know. It's cool.
No, you're absolutely right. I said this in a podcast not too long ago. I was like, bodybuilding is sometimes light years ahead of science because we're doing things and then science catches up and be like, wow, there's proof that this actually works. Because science always wants to see proof. They're like, does this study show? I mean, you could make any study kind of show something. Let's just be honest with it. But bodybuilding, you got proof in the way you look. You got proof in the results that happen, whether your strength goes up, whether you're getting leaner, whether you're getting, achieving the goals that you set out. So I believe that bodybuilding, because it's, again, in the study, it's also hard to make sure that everybody's eating a certain way and training to the efforts that they want. If they're just getting paid to do the study, bodybuilding is like, nah, these people are so hardcore with the way they want to diet, the way they want to train, the way they want to win this show, that they're doing everything pretty much perfect. So you have your perfect test dummies right there, test subjects, to show you that this training method actually works by doing, and I really, with a lot of my clients, I've really incorporated a lot of exactly what you were saying. There's time under tension. There's very controlled negatives that I like to incorporate. There's like squeeze reps where you're holding static, a movement in a certain position for several seconds to try to, really emphasize certain ranges of the movement. Incorporating all these now, I feel like can really help somebody change your physique. And it's not like just this one static workout. There's a lot of dynamic and change in variables in the workout that really gets the body like, whoa, I got all kinds of stuff going on. I come up with all these little names with different workouts I send clients, and a lot of them have, there's a lot of methods behind it other than just do some straight sets of 8 to 10 reps for 4 different exercises. Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mind me asking, by the way, because I'm still so intrigued by, I guess, how you dropped your gear use and your test use so much during the off seasons. I guess did you see yourself gaining much in those periods of time when you did drop your tests, or was that more of you're going to maintain your physique at this weight and try to compete, bring in a better conditioning level or something? Was there a different purpose, a different focus around that?
I think the whole reason for me was all right, I'm going to give my body a rest overall. I'm going to reset my receptors. I'm going to be fresh when I do start back up. That was my number one thought process behind that. And there's people that say, you don't need to take off. There's no reason to take off. You're going to feel like shit. And yeah, you don't feel great, but I never made it an excuse. I never used drugs, PEDs as a crutch to create certain desired goals or effects from what I'm trying to achieve. Too many people use it as a crutch. The only way I can get A to B is if I use this. I never stopped training hard. I never stopped eating a certain way, even though whether I was on or off, whether I was pre-contest or not, I always was pretty much 95% on the ball. That way I created consistency there. And that's what created the results. It wasn't because I was on a shitload of drugs or not on any drugs.
Right.
It was because I was consistent in it. And then people can never tell when I was really on or off. I can tell, you lose a little bit of that hardness. You lose some of that strength. Okay, you don't get the 11th to 12th rep as easy. Maybe you fail at 10, but you're still pushing yourself past where normal people are going to give up. Or when people come off and they kind of fall to the wayside, and you see guys lose 30 pounds because they've come off and they're not training hard anymore. I always trained my ass off. I always pushed, and I always didn't make that an excuse to not be big or strong because I was just off. So my reasoning, if I ever got anything in the off season, it would be just maybe bump test and add a little EQ in. But I was never we're going to add in a ton of anadrol and D-ball and go crazy with it.
Right.
I tried it once and I couldn't eat. I felt sick. I'm how does this benefit me? I'm doing one thing to try to, it's counterproductive. So I was let's just go back to just being some basic stuff. And then, when it's time to get on the gas, when it's time to get on stage and really pour everything into it, because when I have a goal set, then we'll get on it. So that's what I feel why I was able to compete for so long. And yes, my body aged and I've aged, but you look at some guys, you're damn, these dudes aged 20 years in 3 years. That doesn't look good. That's their internal, their internal damage kind of coming through the skin and the way they look. I was always able to, you know, I age pretty gracefully considering the amount of stress that I put on my body over the years. I've done a DNA age test where I actually age, I'm aging slower than my biological age because the stuff I implement now. And, so it's, you know, there's smart ways to do it. There's not smart ways to do it. And there's
Right.
rushed ways and there's ways where you think, hey, I'm going to do this for a long period of time because I want to be in it for a long period of time.
Yep. How long would you say were these health phases that you would take, and how frequent?
I'd say at least 3-4 months in a row. Like, I wouldn't be like, yeah, sure, there's part of you that's like, dude, I want to get back on because I feel great, and being off absolutely sucks. Like, I get that. And that's a mental hurdle you got to get over. I always told my buddy, I was like, well, I don't want to feel like have that body dysmorphia where I feel like I'm super small if I'm not on anything. So what I want to do is I'm just going to get as big as I can. So even if when I feel small, I'm still the biggest guy in the room. That's what I told him one time. So for me, it's, I would take that time, 3-4 months. And then, in the bodybuilding world, it's like, okay, Olympia was September at the time, a lot of the years that I competed. So you would be able to take, or maybe do a couple shows after. So let's just go October, November, December, January. And then it'd be like, all right, maybe that's 3 months, maybe 4. And then if you're going to do the Arnold, you've had 3 months off and then back on, get back into the swing of things. So the guys that are just staying on the gas, like super hard all the time, you can see they just burn out. Their bodies, as they go on in the year, it doesn't carry that same hardness. The crispness is leaving. They're not as full. Their body it looks tired. Yes, some guys are freaks, like Victor Martinez, freak. Like, that guy could look insane all the time, probably running, a cycle all the time and just look insane. But not everybody is Victor Martinez. Not everybody's Dexter Jackson. Not everybody's Kevin Levrone, where they have those kind of genetics. That's just being real,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. That's a cool point, and I'm glad you mentioned that too, because that was one of my curiosities, is how the hell this guy had this freaking long ass standing career and how he lasted so many freaking years. And I think it's just so undervalued to discuss just how important it is to like take your foot off the gas pedal.
Yeah. I mean, we're human. Let's be real. Like, what's your ultimate goal? It's great to look. Our society, and especially with social media, is so vanity driven, and that's the thing about bodybuilding. It's subjective, the way you look. I get it, and we become obsessed with the way we look. Yes, you want to look great, and you want to look a certain way. You want to have, be presentable. You want to be attractive to the other sex. All that kind of stuff. That all plays a role. But be smart. Be a little bit more focused on some long-term health. That's always sat in the back of my mind as I went through my career. Yes, sometimes you're like, I don't care. I'm going to do whatever it takes to try to win Olympia, and I'm going to go all in, and I'm going to do, whatever drugs or whatever training or whatever I have to do to achieve that. There's that like winner's champion mentality. Yes, but you have to know when to let off the gas. You have to know when to say, I need some time off. It's okay if I don't look a certain way. If you need some counseling, whatever, trust me, your girlfriend's going to love you if you're not 4% body fat. And if you're 10% body fat, it's okay, guy.
Yeah. Right.
If you feel like any of the medications that we spoke about today may benefit you, such as BPC 157, GH secretagogues such as Tesamorelin, IGF1, oxandrolone troche, Semaglutide, then you can obtain these from Transcend HRT, and the link for that will be in the bio. If you feel like you're experiencing symptoms of low testosterone, such as depression, anxiety, lack of motivation, as well as lack of sex drive, then you can get this checked out as well by getting your blood work done at Transcend, and they will provide you expert medical analysis. Transcend HRT has worked with many professional bodybuilders and pro athletes, such as Thor Bjornsson, Phil Heath, and Jeremy Buendia. And if you feel like this podcast has any relevancy to you, I do believe that this clinic will provide of great benefit to you as well.
Yoseba Para asks, big fan of the show, favorite show you competed at and why?
Favorite show I competed at, I would say competing in the Arnold, the Mr. Olympia are epic. I mean, the adrenaline rush, being on those stages, it's such a high. But I think personally, the show I go back to is one of the ones that I really hang my hat on. Is like, man, that was probably my favorite show. Was the Mr. USA, the USA Championships 2011 when I turned pro. it was just achieving that, like hitting that top of the mountain and being like at the top for that short period of time. You're just like,
Yeah.
man, it was just such a high. And like I said, at that time, there was so much like press and following of the bodybuilding community at the competitive bodybuilding side. And that was the focus. I don't even think Men's Physique was around back then. Classic wasn't around. So it was just bodybuilding. Like bodybuilding was it.
Yeah.
So that was probably my favorite.
Damn. I think I feel like there's always going to be something special about when you get your pro card.
Yeah.
Yoseba again asks, will we see a come back?
You know, that Masters Olympia is a little enticing. Like I'm not gonna lie, I'm 39. I'll be 40 this August. Not. Yeah,
you're still young, bro.
I'm still young. You know, absolutely. My body's fairly fresh. Actually, literally this past weekend, I just did a full round of exosome and stem cell for my body. So I'm like, man, hopefully in a couple months I feel great. You know, one of the things I actually want to do, kind of a bucket list thing, and I do plan on doing it. I've been training for it. Is I'm going to do a boxing tournament. I'm going to do an amateur boxing tournament, and just to show I'm not a one-trick pony. I actually have some athletic ability in me, other than just a big guy that gets on stage and flexes. So,
bro, I would not want to be with you in a boxing ring. That's crazy. If you don't mind me asking, though, actually, I just thought about this, but what would you recommend for people in terms of, I guess, if you were to give them like an approximate protocol for regenerative medicine, whether or not they're on the bodybuilding stage or not? Like, are there certain things that you would recommend?
Absolutely. There's
timing.
Yeah, I mean, the regenerative medicine side, with now the availability of stem cell, exosomes, like those two working together as like messengers and building blocks for the body, helping it really rebuild the connective tissue, the collagen differentiation that happens when you utilize those products, whether you're injecting directly into a joint or using it systemically with IV. I did the systemic route to kind of work on several areas in my body. So there's understanding the availability of it now that it is in the U.S. You don't have to travel outside the U.S. I offer it now through my clinic that like we could send a nurse to your house. We can do, you could fly to us kind of thing, which is amazing to have the availability of it. And now that it's not crazy expensive, like it's expensive, no doubt, but it's much better than surgery or having to depend on pain medications or steroids, like corticosteroids, not like, testosterone the rest of your life. I'm saying those are great tools to have. Stuff like PRP is great, but the next level would be the growth factors that are available, like calling it the stem cell, and then which are the umbilical based stem cell, and then the exosome product as well. Those two together, I think, are amazing. And that's what a lot of the, you hear the celebrities, the Joe Rogans talk about it, Tony Robbins, all those guys are very influential in that space.
Cool. It's something I definitely want to get into as well. I've been thinking about it a lot. It's just, damn, it's fucking expensive.
Well,
at least for me right now, but all right.
I get you hooked up for sure.
But NEG Trains asks, how'd you get so fucking strong?
I think strength is one of those genetic things. Running my genetics, there's genetic markers that actually indicate whether you're more power prone or more endurance prone with your genetics. So my genetics is very power, meaning like, the high intensity exercises hit. And obviously what kind of muscle fibers are within your body. I'm heavy type 2 muscle fiber, just because I just know my body from training. I know that you give me 40 yards to run and I could pretty much hang with anybody, but you give me a mile and I'm freaking walking that thing, because I do not have the endurance that most versus I'm more of a sprinter than I am a marathon runner.
Gotcha. Yeah, I did my genetics too, and I found out that I have slow twitch fibers, so I'm better for endurance, which is crazy because I fucking hate cardio, but
yeah.
Whatever. Joey T20 asks, what is the craziest cycle that you've ever taken?
Usually pre-contest, they get a little spicy, especially at the end, where you're almost kitchen sinking it.
Spicy is a good word.
But, where you're kind of just saying like, well, shit, I'm going to throw this in there, this in there, this in there. I would say, obviously everybody talks about Tren and, the Tren Masteron, the Winstrol, and like, using a lot of the hardeners and that kind of stuff toward the end of a cycle is very common in bodybuilding place. One of the funnest compounds, and the guys that do, or have you ever tried it, is halotestin. And it's not it's not a liver friendly compound by any means. You don't want to do it very long, but it's one of those where, you're 2 weeks out of a show and you're very depleted, you're flat, you feel weak as shit. And then you walk in the gym and for me, I would all of a sudden grab 200-pound dumbbells and rip them for reps. I was like, I shouldn't be that strong. That's not right. Like, so I'd say incorporating that product in was always a fun. We always joke like, it's Halo time, or it's it's like, so that you want to talk about king, like, that shit's on trend when it comes to strength and stuff, but not really on like overall muscle growth. No, it's not. But the Halo was always fun to throw in there.
Bro, honestly, like I know I've heard a lot of people talk about them having like mental problems and shit when they're on it, but like I'll feel a little weird when I'm on Tren for like a prolonged period of time or whatever, like even longer than 4, 5, 6 weeks. Halo, dude, I don't know why, but I love Halo, bro.
I know. It's like this internal, like you have this strength deep inside of you that's harnessed. You just feel like, but you're like, man, I feel good. Like, I don't know. I felt, you could get sparked a little bit, but I think part of that was being more dieted down and being hungry or hangry versus like what that did for you. But
right.
I always said this. I was like, listen, they talk about roid rage, and it's, to me, I was like, I never really had the issue with that. It was like, listen, if you're going to be an asshole, you're just going to be a stronger asshole on steroids. That's kind of it. Like, that was my differentiator on it. When I never felt like the roid rage is really a thing. It's more like, if you're an asshole, you're just going to be a stronger asshole.
No, for real. I mean, I feel like if people wanted to actually make like roid rage like an actual term, they could just make PMS rage like the same fucking kind of term, because it's literally just imbalanced hormones.
Yeah.
And like if you're a bodybuilder and you're staying on top of your shit, then you can make sure that your hormones
I always felt
are
more
imbalanced.
peaceful. Like, I was like, man, I'm good. Like, and when I was off, or at the, that's when I felt like I was more susceptible to getting out of control.
Drag Ikovsky. Damn, I fucked that up. He asks, ask him about Project Super Heavyweight with Justin Harris.
Oh, that's going back in the DC training days. That's what I mentioned a little earlier.
Right.
Project Super Heavyweight was something that Justin had the idea of, like, hey, let's show us incorporating DC training. It was one of those, obviously before social media, and we had to create DVDs to get out content for us back then. So for Justin had the idea, let's film, like our life, let's film training, let's show some more day in the life type stuff. But the idea was like taking guys that are wanting to get to the national level, eventually turn pro, like showing what it takes. That's why I was like Project Super Heavyweight. We want to become super heavyweights from being heavyweights. That was cool. It was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still crazy to me though, that you would like get on stage at like 280, 290, like straight up freaking 300 pounds shredded is fucking wild.
Big. It's big. And that's the thing is in pictures, a lot of people, when they saw me, they're like, he looks a little small. But then when I would stand next to somebody, they'd be like, fuck, he's huge. Like structurally, I'm bigger than like most guys. Like I could stand next to Andrew Jack and I was one of the guys that could stand next to Big Ramy and not be shadowed, because I was the same kind of structure and mass as him. Did I have I was more balanced top to bottom, so I didn't have these insane quads that were too big for my calves. I was always more balanced, where it, kind of flowed more, and it wasn't as freaky, so to speak,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why I like the pictures that I use for the Q&A and stuff, just having you in the comparisons. You're fucking towering, bro. It's nuts. Polly fucking D asks, if you can only pick 10 exercises for the rest of your life, what would they be?
Can exercise. That's a lot of exercise.
Yeah, maybe let's just do 5. Let's do 5 exercises.
You know, I would probably say, there's these massive gyms that have all this equipment, and then I train at a gym that probably has half the equipment of what normal gyms have, like say like LA Fitness or some of these massive 50,000 square foot gyms like Lifetime or whatever. And I feel like I'm able to achieve everything, if not more, by really just utilizing, like, I love incorporating cables. I love incorporating dumbbells, and I love incorporating machines, probably evenly spread throughout. And I can't say that there's one's better than the other. They all serve their purpose in the right exercise and movement.
Yeah.
So I would probably say that per body part. But I really, I'd always go in waves. I'd love the squat, and then I would hate the squat. And I would love to do dumbbell bench press, and then I would freaking hate dumbbells because I'm like, it's half the battle's just getting the freaking weights there. So I go through phases of training. But I do love to, I would say my current training, I like to feel like I'm a little more functional and not as one-dimensional. Like, bodybuilding is very linear with its training. I like to feel like I can be a little more dynamic, utilizing like more core glute strength, to be a little more explosive. And kind of like I said, I want to try a boxing tournament, so I want to have a little bit more flexibility through hips and more power through my hip drive. So I'm utilizing some more stuff that it wouldn't be as advantageous to do for bodybuilding, so to speak.
Yeah, gotcha. John Benjamin 98 asks, not sure if you remember any specific moments, but what was the hardest moment that you had as a firefighter that you had to endure?
There were several times where, when you see somebody die right in front of you or in your arms, that's traumatic. Like that's pretty hard to kind of, in firefighting, you see stuff and you have to digest it really fast, and you're on to the next call. So you don't have a lot of time to process it. And sometimes it could sit on you later. There was time, like it was Christmas Eve, and we had I remember it was like a 3-year-old that had like sudden infant death syndrome. Like the parents woke up freaking out, the baby's not alive. It was young. I can't remember the exact age, 2, 3, something like that. And it just, like, the look of the parents, and now being a parent myself, I can't imagine that pain. And then the other one would be like somebody that was burned, like 99% of their body burned up, and we had to bring them in the hospital. And I remember that smell of burning flesh was something that you just can't leave your nose. Like, as soon as I'd smell that, I probably would throw up because I remember that smell so vividly.
Holy shit.
It's and the firefighters see a lot of crazy stuff. Police do too, but firefighters are the ones that are cleaning it up. They're the ones that are called to say, hey, person shot 3 times here, like, you got to clean them up, or person's missing an arm, we gotta get them to the hospital type stuff. So it's wild, and I got, like I said, I've been thrown up on, bled on, shit on, pissed on, like, it's crazy.
Holy shit, bro. Even just thinking about it, it's like I can't fucking stomach that shit.
Yeah.
Kudos, man. Pagani Pani asks, thoughts on TRT Plus for a year?
TRT Plus?
Yeah, have you ever heard of that term?
Expand on it just so I don't screw it up.
It's it's a hilarious term. It's like running TRT, but with like a tiny little extra on there. Like, I don't know, like 20 mgs of Anavar, or like a small dose of Primo or something.
I honestly prefer that for a lot of guys that come to me and they're like, I'm doing this whole laundry list of stuff. I said, hold on, let's reset you and let's get your health right before we consider anything else. And then they're like, why? I still want to run all this stuff. I got all this stuff. Okay, then let's try to figure out a smart way to do some things here. A lot of times, they're legally prescribed a lot of this stuff. So it's like, okay, let's figure out how to do this better, more efficiently for your body. Again, the TRT dose, she's probably, 200 milligrams. Let's just call it. That's probably what considered TRT, 1 ml a week. That's what he's probably doing. That's probably going to get you in that 1500 milligram, range for your blood work. So that's plenty of tests. Like, you're already at almost a super physiological level with that. I do have some clients. I got a 45-year-old client has 1,100 tests naturally. So that's not, not too out of the mark, but the 1,500 is starting to push it a little bit. So let's just say, okay, you're there, and the TRT Plus, being smart with it. I had one client that was wanting to be in the best shape of his life at 60, added a little bit of Anavar. I talked to him, got a script for Anavar, and he added 20 milligrams in. It looked crazy. This guy was insane, hard, shredded, just very dedicated to his health, and added that in for a short period of time. For a goal. I think to do it long term may not be the best, and if our long term not the best. You can do it, in your 3-4 months spouts and not have too many issues. Primo's one you can kind of add in. That is pretty safe and mild, considering it's going to help some of the with the estrogen management a little bit. It's going to do some beneficial things to kind of enhance testosterone, let's say. But it's I'm not opposed to saying those could be okay, the TRT Plus for a longer segment of time than what you could run Tren or some of these other compounds for.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Isn't it fucking crazy though? Just like how crazy crisp that you can look off of like just a small dose, like jumping off on a small dose freshly.
Yeah, I did that like the end of last year. I think I was like, I'm going to run 40 milligrams of Anavar for a month, just on top of my TRT. And I mean, my body transformed. Like I had veins in my abs. I had my obliques were freaking shredded. I was like, what's going on here? Like is that all I needed to do to get on stage? Like I didn't need to do all this other shit. But I mean, my body's just in a much healthier spot I know it much better now, but
yeah. When your body is in a healthier spot, like I felt this personally where I just respond so much better. Just like when I first started in the first place, like the response was so much better. And I know whenever I take a long health phase and then reset my system and do a lot of inflammation reduction, a lot of reduction of oxidative stress, I just respond so much better. But I also just like, I swear to God, bro, I see this all the time where it's like, I feel like when someone jumps from being, I mean, not all the time, but most of the time when someone jumps from being natty to not natty, it's just crazier than when someone jumps, like doubles their dosage, you know, like
that's very true because I was talking to my partner on, that I work with, Dr. Timmy, and we were talking about that. And it's like the benefit from saying from like doubling your test, say you go from 500 to 1,000, like how much greater it is with the results. It's actually like less and less the more you add in. So it's not that more is always better. It's what your body could truly utilize is the key.
Yeah. And I think that's the big misconception with a majority of people out there when it comes to gear and compound use is it's like volume of training, right? There's like, this margin just gets smaller and smaller as you just increase it higher and higher. So there's like a sweet spot for most people, but I mean, obviously 10 grams is better, right? So
I couldn't imagine, I hear some old story. I've talked to old school bodybuilders from the 90s and early 80s, et cetera, that more in the 90s, they got pretty aggressive with some of the dosing where they would do like a 10 cc shot type of stuff. Like this was stuff I've actually heard.
Savage,
and I'm like, oh my God, one, that would fucking hurt. And two, like, I see why you guys looked insane because you guys used some super high dose of stuff. Like they didn't use a lot of different compounds, but they used a lot of a couple.
Okay. Yeah. Bro, I feel like my actual like injection site would just explode. I just feel like my muscle would explode. I don't fucking know how that's possible.
Yeah, right.
Nathan Shoots.c asks why GH15 hated him.
On
GH15 message boards?
No, that was on God, why am I drawing a blank on it? One of the old school forums. I have no idea. I don't even know the guy. I think when somebody hates on somebody, it's usually because they're jealous of them, typically, for some reason. So he just I never met the guy, so I couldn't tell you that we had any beef.
That's
maybe
funny. That's crazy.
Couldn't compete at the level I did. I don't know.
That's hilarious, bro. I'll literally like see shit pop on my explore page, like even things that are just completely bodybuilding unrelated, and like anytime you jump into the comments these days, it's all hate. It's crazy.
It is.
Like unless it's something that's extremely wholesome, where like you're seeing a puppy being saved or whatever.
Right.
I mean, even then, when you see a puppy being saved, there's going to be someone that's like, you can't treat a puppy like that.
Yeah,
way.
exactly.
You can't hold a puppy like that.
You can't make everybody happy, man. You can't make everybody happy. And if you're gonna try, you're gonna be in for a world of hurt.
Yeah. Sam Nico 24 asks, well, what did you do to keep your hair?
Man, that was a task. Absolutely. Like, sure, it's a little on the thinner side now, no doubt. But I would always, like, for me, I mean, I was more DHT prone to the hair loss. Obviously, anytime I ran heavy DHT things, I would be like, oh shit, I'm starting to lose my hair, you know? So I went through a little phase where I tried oral finasteride, and I wanted to just shoot myself because that is the worst. I remember like crying at like Tide commercials because I felt like I'm like, why am I so emotional? Like, why does my nipples hurt? Like, it was just terrible. Like,
no way.
And, you know, so there's topical things you could add, especially now they got peptides to help with androgen, issues with hair. There's, like topicals that I would recommend overtaking pills. Those do help. So I would always use like some hair growth shampoos and all that kind of stuff. And it definitely helped, no doubt. I have done one, hair restoration treatment where to try to, thicken up a little bit. And I would probably do another that, to help a little bit. But, that's why you see most guys, especially white dudes that are shaved heads and bodybuilding because they just lose their hair. DHT.
Yeah.
If you have high DHT receptors in your hair, you're likely going to lose them just because that's what the top part of the scalp is really what's dedicated to the DHT.
That's me, man. That's me. Yeah. I'm going to fucking Turkey.
Yeah, they've reached out. I'm like, shit, 100%. I might take them up on this, But we still got some hair. We're doing all right, but I want to.
Bro, you're doing way better than I would at your age, honestly. Yeah, the turkey's gonna be nice. I'm so stoked.
Yeah.
I've been doing minoxidil, finasteride, and microneedling for the longest time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like it hasn't done dog shit.
No, I'm actually one of the treatments that, because now with having more access to exosomes, they have a microneedling exosome therapy, microneedling, that's supposed to like really have a lot of success. So I'm going to try it before I do anything else to see. I'm like, all right, does this really trigger new and re-hair growth? If that's the case, then man, I know what business I'm getting into.
Yeah. That's tight.
All hair restoration via exosomes.
Did you ever find that your hair just dried the fuck out whenever you were bodybuilding?
I have more oily skin, so I never felt like that was an issue for me now.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So it's a genetic thing for me. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have noticed it happens to some guys. Like we'll see like when we're in our when we're like 20 years old, our hair is like all like luscious but it's also super soft and oily and shit. Yeah. And then as we grow older and keep running the compounds, like it just starts looking like pubic hair, man. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? There's a few people that ask this question, but they're all basically the same. Julia Sterling asks, how do you balance all your responsibilities in the day? Tips on time management for sure.
Man, I've always kind of lived pretty loose, especially pre-kid. Like I never really ran a schedule, but now with my businesses and I'm pretty much married to my schedule, and I always try to cut in like schedule time for what I need for myself. Like I'll literally schedule in an hour of my day for a workout for myself. That way I don't get booked. I'm not like dedicating to other people, because I do need time for myself. And then especially when it comes time for family, like I make sure, yes, there's times where, I need to spend more time, or like I got a deadline for something where my family understands, hey, I need to work later or whatever. But when it comes family time, I try to put my phone away, be more intentional with being more present with my time. And that has made the biggest impact with utilizing time. And then, like I said earlier, saying no to things and not being, because I'll get pulled in a million directions. If people want to say, hey, can you do this for me? Or I need help here? And I always like helping, but at some time I'm, being a one-man show, a lot of times it's like, no, I can't. And, but it's scheduling is key for me.
Okay, cool. I feel the same way too. I used to think when I was younger that I was like, oh yeah, I'm spontaneous. Like, when you're dating around, you're like, yeah, I'm spontaneous and shit. Now I'm like, if I have like someone cancel an appointment or something, I'm fucking flipping over tables. I'm so pissed, bro.
Yep.
I have one last question I ask at the end of every podcast, but if you were to disappear from the world tomorrow and you had one message you could send to the entire world today, what would the message be?
Ooh, that's a good one, man. I have this thought a lot, like if I was to die, what would people say about me? And I feel like I would want the majority of the people that has met me, come in contact with me, or that I've impacted in some way or another, say like, you know what? Steve really impacted my life for the best. Like, I always want to bring the best energy I can to a room or like treat people the way I would want to be treated. And that message has always resonated with me. A lot of success in life. One of the sayings that I was told, like, the same people you see coming up, the same people you see coming down. So don't forget the little people in life that are considered the little people. Like, hey, your friends from high school, or the people that, your neighbor or something you were close to. Like, if I could, my thing is, if I could think about somebody, if somebody comes to my mind, I reach out to them, regardless of it's somebody I haven't talked to in 5 years or somebody that I talked to 2 days ago. I message them, and it's something I've done, and it's been really impactful, not only for me, but to maintain relationships, because I love relationships. I'm a relationship person. And I feel like, man, if I could, it would be just be present in every day and enjoy every freaking day, because it's a gift. It's an absolute gift. Recent book I read called Chasing Daylight was incredible to really put in perspective of what it means to live with purpose and live with intention, and not just go through the motions in life, but love the people that love you, and go out and try to impact and be the best you can in anything you do, in any room you walk into.
I really love that, man. I think that's something that I strive for, but I still struggle for every day. Yeah. Just taking out the time to message people back alone. Sometimes I feel like I miss 60% of the messages and end up like messaging them like 3 days later or something crazy. And I want to be able to be there for the people, because the people that were there for me have changed my life forever. My best friends that have passed away and are no longer here, that would take their time out of the day when it would serve them nothing. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Dosages. But he was a guy that was super influential on social media, and dude, the bro would just talk to anybody, like anybody that he wouldn't even be getting anything out of, if that makes sense. Like day to day, people would like come up to him just to like want to take pictures and talk to him, and he would end up like, we would end up pausing a workout for 30 minutes to an hour because he was still talking to the same person. But obviously he wouldn't be getting anything out of it. He was just there to be there and present, and spend time with this person. So that's something I strive for, and I think it was a beautiful message that you gave out.
Appreciate that.
Thanks for coming on the podcast, bro.
Man, appreciate you, dude. Absolutely. Been a fan of your stuff. I've seen a lot of it. I'm finally glad that I got to be a part of it. And anytime you want me on, man, I'm here for you. Absolutely.
100%, bro. 100%. Thanks again, bro.
You got it now. Thanks,
catch you
brother.
soon. Peace. Thank you guys for watching. Steve Kuclo, an absolute legend, fucking massive giant. I just want to thank you guys again for being on the podcast and listening, because I wouldn't be able to talk to all these amazing people if it weren't for you guys being here and supporting too. So I hope that I give out some kind of value, and every time you guys show support or have even supported each other, it's been really beautiful for me to see, and it's honestly brightened up my life, and I hope that we just continue to grow together. So thank you guys for being here. Rate us a 5-star on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you find your podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, click the bell button. Gets us amazing guests like Steve. Peace, guys. Have the sickest day ever. Get the best training sessions ever.